Hi there, folks. Welcome to the 2023 Intermediate TAC Open Tournament. Now, in the past, we have done intermediate invitational tournaments. This is the first year where we are switching that. We're going to intermediate open tournaments. Now, what does that mean? That means that basically we have set up a cutoff on the upper level of the skill level that people can join, but there is no lower level. So brand new players, players who are beginners to the game, can join the intermediate open. They probably just won't make it very far, and so if you never competed in a beginner tournament, you can still compete in the intermediate open. But we've got people here, and the cutoff that we made is a tournament rating level, and so you have to have played in a tournament before. And at this point, it's 1850 for the ELO for the tournament rating. Now, 1850 is interesting. There's some caveats with that. Like if you've only ever played in beginner tournaments, your rating might be a little inflated over that, and so that's fine. We'll let you join if you've only played in beginner tournaments before that. So that also happened here. Tones, one of the competitors, was the winner of the most recent beginner tournament, and his rating was 1900 or something after that because, again, beginner tournament. And so he did phenomenally well. And he is also in the playoffs of this in another match, not this one. This one we're going to be watching nitzel and GladiatorSum. Now, nitzel, interestingly, came in here having played quite a few tournaments, including two previous intermediate invitationals from the prior 2 years, also two TAC Open tournaments, and some other ones here and there. Now, he's been playing since about October of 2020, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And he's rated at 1842, so just under that 1850 cap. So he barely made it into this tournament based on his tournament rating. So a solid player. We've seen him do great things in the past. Interestingly, GladiatorSum, his opponent today, also made it in to this tournament and won his round robin group. Now, he won his round robin group in an interesting fashion in that he was in a three-way tie for the top spot of his round robin group, and the other two people were from the most recent beginner tournament. The most recent beginner tournament, by the way, the players in there were top notch, and I say that because, again, he was in a three-way tie with two players from the beginner tournament. Also, three other players in this playoffs, the five of the people in the playoffs of this intermediate open are from that same beginner tournament. So, yeah, it was a tough competition. Also, one of the other people who just barely qualified for this intermediate open in that he was almost too good, Mayor Gills, he split his games with another person who is from that same beginner tournament who almost made it in, Climace. So like that most recent beginner tournament, if you haven't seen those videos, go check those out. Awesome play from these beginners, and they're doing great work in this intermediate open. Now, GladiatorSum did not play in that beginner tournament and has not played in any tournament until this one. This is his very first tournament. Also interesting about that is he's been playing for just 1 year less than nitzel. He started playing on Playtech back in October of 2021. So interestingly, he hasn't competed in any tournaments until this one, but here he is in the semifinals of the Intermediate Open against a veteran player, nitzel. So I am really excited to see how this goes and see if GladiatorSum can edge out a victory against this more experienced player, or if nitzel is just going to use that experience against him. But we are good to go. The players are just waiting on me at this point. So without any further ado, let's jump right into game one of nitzel versus GladiatorSum in this intermediate TAC Open tournament on a 6x6 board, 15 minutes on the clock with a 10-second increment, playing with two Comey, meaning that 2 gets added to black's flat count score at the end of the game if the game does not end in a road. So, nitzel in white, GladiatorSum in black in game one. And here we go with move one, A1. Nitzel places GladiatorSum in the A1 corner. Let's see. And going for the hug opening, GladiatorSum plays the hug. This is an opening that nitzel is not super familiar with. He's been a little inactive lately, has been playing too much in the tournament scene, and so a little bit inexperienced with things like the hug. But he has told me that he's been watching some of the TAC Championship games to sort of get a feel for some of these new tactics, like this hug opening, and that is exactly something that these players like Aliano 2, the TAC champion, would have played in this hug situation, play up here at B3. So definitely kind of following along with some of these tactics we've seen in those upper levels of play. All right, and GladiatorSum playing that capstone there. I think that's a good play too. Also something we saw in the TAC Championship. Definitely borrowing some lines there and some strategies from those top players, which, let's be honest, that's a great way to do it. If you're unfamiliar with a certain type of opening and you've seen it played in the championship game, yeah, you might want to see if you can pull something off with that. This white capstone placement, I'm not too sure about though, because black, like they've done, can shift gears here for the vertical, and then white's capstone is less part of the game here. It's a little bit outside. And that's exactly what we're seeing. Black continuing to play for this vertical. Interestingly, though, didn't play up at b4 like I would have expected. I expected a b4 for black because he's got this capstone able to come left and smash if white were to, for example, drop a wall here at a2. But now they've kind of put themselves in a predicament that they can't really make this vertical threat because that b4 was taken. So that kind of put them a little bit behind is what it looks like. Gonna be instead playing over at c5, I guess, to eventually come left, maybe interrupt this horizontal threat that white's building towards. I mean, white's also building for the vertical threat as well. Playing down at c1, coming left with the capstone, making that vertical. That also works. So neither player is in too bad of a position here. They both have a lot of options. They can go for threats. Looks like white is building for that horizontal and vertical line. Playing here at d3 does both of those things. Plays out to this side. Also plays down for the d1 anchor point here. So white is in not too bad of a position. The issue that white is going to have is that black's got a capstone right here at b2, able to come up onto b3, and that movement there can be a bit problematic because let's say that this capstone comes up here. Well, now you've got the capstone interrupting both the vertical and the horizontal line that white's been building for, and it's working towards black's vertical line at the same time. So that move would not be too great for white, and I think it's going to be happening sooner rather than later. If white does build out, for example, over here or over here, we're probably going to see that capstone move up at some point. We may see instead black move left with this flat to bring the capstone up at the last moment. That could be a thing. But now that white has played up at a5, black has the opportunity to play up at b6, make that placement first because white is not threatening any sort of road, doesn't need to make a capture. And since they don't need to make a capture, probably shouldn't make one at this point. Probably should play up here at b6. That would give them that anchor point and allow black to be making those threats, cutting off white's threat at the same time on the following turn. That's exactly what they do. They do play up at b6. Now, this is where white needs to make the decision, okay, do I play something defensively? Do I play maybe a flat or a wall right here to be able to come left onto this b5 spot to cut off black's opportunity for this vertical road? Or do I do something more offensively, play here, play here, play here, play here? Any of those spots work and they make attack threat. So white's got a lot of opportunities to make attack threat. The problem is As soon as they do, black can come up with this capstone or come left with this flat and make a threat and cut off white's threat at the same time. So I think that at this point, white probably wants to make some move here, like maybe play a wall here. So playing a wall in this spot, able to come left onto b5, really kind of shuts down a lot of what black is going for in terms of that vertical direction. They could Black could play in response to that up at a6 or something, but doesn't I'm not sure about that. But we do see white is playing that c5 position. So that is a good place to be, I think. I would have expected a wall maybe, but the flat I feel like does work the same way. It is able to come over, and white's going to be able to win any sort of capture war, because if they do come left and black comes down, white comes right, they win that capture war. There's nothing else black can do there. And then they got this big stack. Black's gonna drop a wall somewhere. Not super important at that point. But I do like the play there at c5. I think that's showing that they're thinking ahead. They're thinking, okay, I know that if I make a threat in any direction, whether that be here, or here, something's going to happen. And that something happened already. Black came up with that capstone. Now that that capstone's up, white can come down with c5 to capture here and sort of fix up their position a little bit, but also stop black from making this road, because black's got a threat here. Black can come left with this flat to make a road, but instead we see white come up and capture onto b5 with that flat. Interesting play here. I'm not sure about that one myself. Yeah, I feel like filling in with black makes a lot of sense. It's not a threat right now or anything, but this flat here can be taken by the capstone if black wanted to throw that up onto b5. But also black can start playing here or here to kind of cut things off, but also work towards that same threat again. Um, a lot of opportunities for black still. White sort of split themselves up a little bit and kind of, I don't know, put themselves in a bad spot. White likely wants to play here at d5. Now, d5, fine, that works for the vertical and the horizontal, but they're not playing. They're instead playing at d4, which I find interesting. I guess the idea is to eventually come up with c3 to make that connection in the vertical and horizontal directions. But black might want to be playing here at d5 and then at c6, make that threat. I don't know. I see a lot of opportunity for black here. A little less for white, but white's still absolutely in the game. It's it's pretty even, but I do like black's position a little bit better. One thing to note, however, is that white does have this flat here to be able to come left onto a1 to cut off black's vertical. So kind of has that in reserve, waiting to use that when it's necessary. The other problem with that is that we've got this spot here open for black to drop a flat in. If that happens, then he can continue and just renew that same threat. Also got this flat at c2. That renews it again in those two spots, able to fill in. So not as big of a counter as you would think with this b1 left move. Not that big of a counter. But we do see black come up immediately. Now, I like this move because black can come up here without fear of having this stack get captured. Because if white were to come right, that would just leave a road open for black. So black made that move calculated, knowing, okay, I don't have to worry about this getting captured right now. This is in a perfect position. It's fine. Don't need to worry about it. I like that. I like that. I like that. And I think that one of the moves that we could see here is we could see white stack come up. We could see a flat come left. We could see a flat come down. We could see this flat come left. We could see a number of those things. Those are all viable moves, and they all kind of at least delay what's going on here. I feel like the worst of those moves is going to be this one. Because black just fills in there and renews the threat at the same time. Or black plays a flat here and makes an even stronger one. So, yeah, I feel like black's in a really solid position here. That move coming up with c4 onto c5, that was a solid move. That's c4 plus. And c4 plus, that is right here. Just off to the left here, we see this PTN, or portable tack notation. That is how we describe moves in tack. It's sort of like you would see chess notation, or any other game like that will have their own notation. It's easy to record games and be able to look at them after the fact. It's pretty easy to understand, but there is a video on that in Tack University called PTN, or portable tack notation. And I did mention at the beginning of this game, I mentioned the opening that they used, the hug. Now, I did talk about the hug briefly in the openings video of Tack University. However, I didn't talk about it too much because it wasn't used very much, and it was more theoretical at that point that video was released, but it has been used a whole lot more, and we're getting a lot more information on how viable it is as an opening strategy. So that's fun to see. We also do see in the chat here, we have Climace, who was part of this intermediate open. And like I said, just barely lost out that top spot in his group to Mayor Gills, who, again, was very close to being too good to make the cutoff. And Climace was in that most recent beginner tournament and did very, very well there. Just got second place, lost out to Tones in the finals. And Tones is also in this tournament. So, like I said, that last beginner tournament was stacked. I feel like that was the best group of beginners we've had in a long time. In terms of the amount of high-quality players was just fantastic. But we do see that B1 left move be made here. So we saw that happen, cutting that threat off. Now, this is where you take a look at how this whole thing could play out. Now, I like the idea of black placing here at B2. I think that's okay. However, I also really like the idea of potentially preemptively capturing left with this C5 stack. Now, white's able to, after the fact, capture right with the A5 stack, then black comes down, makes this big thing. Black instead just places here at C4, and I like that too. This is working around it. It's also protecting this stack, because black knows that he's not going to be able to renew a threat on this turn. Now, that just means, okay, I got to set up to make sure that this stack doesn't get captured. But white drops a wall there ready to do it, so that flat's not going to do much to stop it. This is where I think you run left with this stack, capture onto B5, make not attack threat, but get that in there. White will probably come left with their own wall, and then you can spread left, or maybe white will come right with this flat before coming left with the wall, and then you spread to the right. There's a lot you can do, but I do think the move here is to move this left. You don't want to give that wall an opportunity to get that stack, and this can work out for you pretty well, I think. Because if it does end up being left, right, down, then you've got this big stack here able to spread across, and it's only 3 black flats, so you can go here to here, making a threat and also keeping it out of the reach of potentially the wall there. There's a lot that can happen here. And if it does so happen that oh, black's just ignoring it and placing the flat, knowing. Okay, so white's definitely coming down with this wall. What's black's response to this? I feel like that was a bit of a blunder. Letting white's wall get that stack, I feel like is going to hurt him in the long run. It's going to hurt him in flat count differential, and it's going to hurt him in positioning. Because now this wall is in a great spot, and white's going to be able to use that to make a threat here pretty soon. Now black fills in down below, I guess hoping to make a connection down here. White's going to be able to make a threat here pretty soon. White can place a flat here at d6, and that's a road threat already. Um, by way of making this sort of drawbridge threat, spreading that across with 3c5 right 1 2. Now, yeah, there's no threat here from black. If I'm white, I'm playing there at d6. And that's exactly what he does. So this is a threat now for white. Black's got to see it. Now black may miss this threat. Likely not, however. He is very new to the tournament scene, but he's been playing for a while, and we saw him do some great work in that round robin group of this tournament. Does notice, brings this down. Yeah, that works. Maintains that. You're also still able to kind of play off for your horizontal threat. I think as white, you might just fill in here at d5. You could play off to the side here at e4 to sort of cut off that horizontal threat from happening. But I do like the d5 fill, but I also like an e4 placement. I think the d5 fill is probably better because what you do after d5, let's say black plays at e4, you take this wall stack, bring the whole stack down, and now that this whole stack is down, you're making another threat. So white does play off to the side at e4. Yeah, I think I liked d5 a little bit better, but this one is pretty good. It is pretty good. Yeah, at this point, oh, the wall comes down. That's a good wall. That is a really good wall there. This wall is able to protect this stack. If white wants to come left with that flat, that wall comes down. It also blocks white's wall from doing a lot of shenanigans there, so that's pretty good. White now building outside, trying to go up to make that vertical road. So white's in a pretty solid position here. Black is trying to get things back, trying to earn their spot back. Black playing here at c5 is good. They're probably going to want to be playing at f4 to renew and get that attack threat in. It's easily stopped, but it's not a bad tactic to kind of force your opponent to make these flat on flat captures that they don't want to be making. Now, what do I do if I'm white here? I feel like as white, you could play f4 to keep black from playing there. You could play c6 and trust in your ability to capture down with c6 after after black plays at f4. But I feel like f4 is just overall the better move here. Yeah, I like f4 as the move. I think that's the way to go. Place at f5 instead. Now, if black plays here, white's probably going to come left, and coming left makes the threat. But if white comes left, then black can come right with the wall, I believe, and recapture that. And then they've got that opportunity to renew the threat and make a positive flat count differential move. And we do have, and I say positive flat count differential move. What I mean is a +2, +3, +4, something like that, more than a +1 move. And we talk about that in the FCD or flat count differential video of Tech University. Ooh, and here we go. White comes down with the wall to stop that threat. Now, this is not attack threat for white. It is not attack threat for black. What is the play here for black? Now, black could, if they wanted to make a threat right now, not a very good one, but they could, come down with b6. Not a great move. I wouldn't recommend it. What they could do also is come down with the wall. Now, the problem with coming down with the wall is that's a negative flat count move. White just fills in at d5 again to make a threat, and you have to come back up with that wall. Now, the good thing is coming back up with that wall after the fact is making attack threat in the vertical direction, and it's going to be a pretty sneaky one, easy to miss. So that could definitely be a viable option here. The other thing is if black comes down with the wall and white were to, for example, play here, black wouldn't be able to come back up immediately for that. They'd have to come to the right or do something else to stop that road from happening, because this would be a vertical threat as opposed to the horizontal one. So a lot going on here. White's built up this position pretty well. Black's got to really think hard about this one, trying to come up with how to defend against it and still maintain the ability to make threats and not lose out so much on flat count. Because we do take a look at the flat count here. Ooh, black comes down. That is, I don't know about that decision here. Because this is not a threat, and white has the ability to capture right onto this, even onto this, and recover those captives and liberate them. And that is potentially disastrous. Not going to do that. First, going to drop an anchor point here, and I see what they're going for. They drop the anchor point so that they can then take this wall stack to the right. Probably not the whole thing. Probably leaving behind one black flat. Maybe ring the whole thing, but probably leaving behind one black flat. And then being able to take this wall stack, take the whole thing, spread it left, and connect for that horizontal road. So that is definitely something that is an option here. Black's going to have to shut that down, whether that be coming down with this wall or some other option. It's tough to say. But yeah, let's take a look at the flat count as well. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 for white. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, wait, hold on. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 for black. So black still does have flat count here, because if they play the next turn, they've got 13 to 12. White has more reserves, I believe. Yeah, they're just about even on reserves. But black opts to drop another flat. I am intrigued by this. White's probably going to be making the capture here to make that threat. What is black's plan? Why e5? Now, potentially e5 is to be able to come down with this wall and keep white from making the threat. Now, white playing up at e6 kind of puts the kibosh on that because white can play here or here and make the threat as well. So white's able to just keep placing to make these threats, and black's going to have a hard time continuing to just keep placing to stop them. Now, Climax in the chat is saying c6 for black. Okay. Instead comes left with the wall. That can be problematic. White may decide to play, may decide to come right with the wall, but they know that if they let black come left, that is attack threat here. They could ultimately be disastrous for them. It's hard to say how that's going to play out. So if white plays and black comes left, white would basically be forced to come left with the wall to stop it. And if they come left with the wall, black would not be able to capture up and smash with the capstone because that would leave behind a4 coming down to make the road. I know it's hard to see, to follow along because it hasn't, those moves weren't made, but it's what I was seeing in my head. So that could work out well for white, but I think ultimately coming left with this wall was probably the right decision here for black because this is such a good move and forces this to happen. Now, if he forces that to happen and then comes up here on the following move, I think that's good. Then we can see this capstone be able to come up and make some sort of smash move, recover a bunch of captives right underneath that capstone, and then that capstone would be in a great position either here or here to be able to go right for this horizontal or down for the vertical. Like, there's a lot that could go on here, and all because of that one wall movement right here started this whole thing. So there's a lot of different directions this could play out, and that's one of the things that I love about TAC and that a lot of people love about TAC is just the sheer amount of moves that can be made, viable moves in any one turn. Is just that branching factor that there's so many things that could happen, so many directions it could go. Now, Climbing's in the chat is saying that he'd go for a wall at a6. Now, the wall can hurt your flat count differential for sure. However, that wall for white is probably the best move that he can make here because he can come right and stop black from doing that whole plan that he's going for here. And if he ignores the plan and does something else, I think it ultimately works out in black's favor. So he's got to play that defensive move here, sort of give up that ground, does go for it, plays the wall at a6, gives up the ground. And now black is now faced with a decision. Do I continue? Do I continue this? Or do I do something else? I think you might still continue anyway. Yeah, so he does do that. We'll probably see white's wall come right onto b6. That does happen. Now, black Hmm. Actually, that's interesting. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. Now, this is obviously really contrived. There's a lot going on here. Let's say black comes up, and then black comes up, smashes. This is a threat now going to the right. It's also a hard capstone with several pieces underneath. I think that's a great play. I don't think white's going to be able to do enough in that period of time. I think that the play is probably to come up and do that. Instead, we're seeing black play here, hoping to play here and make the threat yet again, or play here and make a threat yet again. So either way, so white's going to have to make a capture to stop black from making a threat. So white plays there. Black's now going to play here at d5, and that is a tack threat for black. If black sees it, he might be too focused on the vertical here. But if he plays here at d5, that is a horizontal tack threat. And it would require a capture to stop. It would also create this nice little citadel. Oh no! He comes right with the capstone. Now this is not a threat, but it is threatening that stack. Now I guess now that that's moved, black could play maybe a flat here to make another threat. Okay, does play the flat there. Now this is another threat. The threat is playing a flat here at c4. That would complete this horizontal threat. Very roundabout, but still works. Now white probably just takes this wall stack, moves it to the right, recovers that liability, or that captive, just liberates it, while at the same time furthering their vertical line. I think that that capstone movement was a bit of a blunder. I don't think that was the right play. Don't think that was the right play. Now, Climace is saying E2, he's missing it. He's missing the threat that black has. Black has this horizontal threat. So white's thinking E2 to fortify, but that doesn't work. That'll lead to a road for black. He's had some good suggestions so far though. Like that wall up at A6 was really important. Hmm. Now, white can't just okay. There we go. Makes the throw. This is now the threat. So this is now a threat going vertical. Now black can respond by coming down. Black can respond by coming over. I think those are really the only things. Oh no, never mind. Coming. Oh yeah, coming down does work. Yeah, my bad. So yeah, coming down and coming over. Those are basically the only moves here. Yeah, those are the only things that black can do at this point. Got to decide between them. I think coming down works. If white comes left with the wall, that's not a threat anymore, but it is getting a pretty big stack. White comes left with the wall. Ooh, black throws over there. I don't know about that. Going all the way is a little risky, but it is kind of fun. And I do like fun. Yeah, I'd say that's a fun move. I like that one. Um, White probably not doing this. May potentially do this, where they spread this D3 stack up. So 2D3 plus 1, 1 to capture up and create that threat yet again. Leaves this open at D3. So D3 would be remaining open. So I don't think that's too bad. Okay, does do that. So black could potentially just drop a flat here, or drop a wall if they really want to be sure about it. Could also take this wall stack, spread it to the right now, and recover the captive there, and cut off the threat. I like that move the best. But he comes left instead, and I think that might be a bit of a mistake. Because white could fill in, or fill in. I don't know. I liked I liked the wall stack coming over because you could liberate a captive with that and still set up an opportunity for some threats in the vertical direction for black. I did like that. There's a lot going on in this game right now, and we also take a look. Oh, I didn't even notice this. Take a look at this. Nitzel's down below a minute on the clock. He's got 30 seconds or so, and GladiatorSum not too far behind at a minute and a half. So yeah, they're working on low time now. Working on low time here in this game. And I would say that currently, the state of the game, they're in the mid game. They're not even in the end game yet. This is the mid game. They've got a lot of reserves left here. Look at all these reserves. There's still a lot of open spots on the board. Yeah, this is mid game. White dropping another wall here. And dropped that wall with 11 seconds left on the clock because he gets 10 because of the increment. 10-second increment. So had 11 seconds left when he dropped that wall. Let's see, do you capture up here? So do you come up? You'll eventually lose the capture war on D6 if you do that. I don't know. I still like this position for black, while it's pretty risky, it's still not that bad. Like it's still definitely salvageable. Oh, black comes down though. Now the problem with coming down is that now white's got an opportunity to move that capstone and get that capstone in the game. It might be a little late for that though, because nitzel, look at that clock down below 10 seconds on the board. White still hasn't moved that capstone. This entire game, I don't think that capstone has moved. Black setting things up. I don't know. I don't know how what they're doing will work. Yeah, and so white comes up, cuts that off. I wouldn't have. Yeah, I wouldn't have done that. I don't think. I mean, I would have done what white did. Absolutely, I wouldn't have done what black did. Black drops the wall. Needed to drop that wall. That was pretty important. Pretty smart play there, dropping that wall, keeping that white from making that connection there. White dropping a flat at E2. Is he trying to go for flats at this point? I mean, he's got a lot of reserves left. Getting close to end game, but 12 for white, 12 for black. White has a +2 move and a +2 move, so 2 +2 moves. They did make one of those. Black filling in, trying to make that vertical road threat. However, this gives black a +3 move now available. And that same +3 move would be a threat. Black throws to the right with that wall stack. I think that's a good play here. Threat now from black. Making quick moves here. Nitzel's still down low time. Now white's got a great position to make some positive flank differential moves. White should probably just play at a6. They do. That is attack threat for white. Black probably going to capture up with that flat stack onto a6 to renew the threat and also cut off white's threat. No, they come up with the wall. Okay. White trying to pin black's capstone, I think. Oh, man. So quick. Oh, white makes the throw. The throw and the smash for the win. Let's look at that. Okay, so yeah, they set that up. They knew that. I didn't even see it because we were so low time. Nitzel planned that out. Set that up knowing they could throw that capstone up. Smash for the win and the road. That was a great play. Some great scrambling from Nitzel there at the end to play on such low time. Fantastic. That was a great game. Really great battle between these two players. So, wow. Congratulations to Nitzel for winning game 1 of this 2-game match in the semifinals of the 2023 Intermediate Open Tournament. That was a lot of fun to watch. That was really tight. That was a good one. And I say really tight in that it was a close match, not old slang of, yo, that's tight, or whatever. Which, yeah. Yeah, anyway. Thanks, everybody, for watching. That is all for today. Check out the description below for all things TAC, especially the TAC Discord server, which is the community hub and where you can find all sorts of TAC resources like strategy guides and people to play with, whether that be right here on playtac.com or asynchronously in the Discord server itself, playing just one move a day if you want to. A lot of great resources out there, so be sure to check that out. And again, that is all for today. Thanks for watching, and until next time, have a great day and happy tacking.